Good morning from Kampala here, and I welcome you to this program of the Pan-African Friday program that comes your way from UBC studios here on Nile Avenue in Kampala. The program that looks at issues of interest to the African population, the African people, both living in Africa here and even those who are living elsewhere outside of Africa. People normally say in the diaspora. I'm yet to understand what that means when talk of the diaspora. But I know that there are many Africans who are living outside of this continent. And normally on Fridays we come with different topics concerning that concern the lives of Africans, both, as we said, in the diaspora and those who are living on the continent. Today we will be expecting to have a discussion with the Minister of East African Affairs. I think in time she will make her way in the studio here, and we'll be looking at how far, remember last week we were looking at general issues of the integration of the East African integration. But today we wanted to look specifically at an area of interest. Of course, most of the areas in East Africa are areas of interest, but specifically they wanted to look at the issue of the customs union, on how far we have gone as the people of East Africa with this treaty that we signed in 2014 to do with the free trade and of the population within this part of the greater part of Africa, of East Africa. Now, while we wait for her to make her way in the studio, we'll be looking at, of course, other issues that have come up on the continent within this week and, of course, beyond the continent. In the studio today with Rachel Takali, who is always a usual panelist here. Nduguru Garama today has evaded us. I'm sure he's within the corridors of Kampala, I think, making his way here. It will be late for him. But also Ndugu Irumba, we call him Irumba the spy, will also be making his way here. Apparently he told me that he's stuck in a jam. And of course, when you are staying in the area where there are rich people, you expect yourself at some point to be stuck in the jam. Of course, people in Kampala are complaining of many potholes, but also we are complaining of very many cars. So today we'll be looking at some of those issues, and as we wait for the Right Honorable Minister to be here, who is also the third Deputy Prime Minister, to be with us. We'll be looking, normally we start our week on a program with what issues that we have looked at, or issues that have happened in this week within the continent, or also elsewhere outside of the continent. And to me, before I go to Rachel, one thing that caught my interest was the bedbugs in France. And now these guys have been telling us that the issues of bed bugs, of those disease-related insects, are basically for Africans, and because they believe in their way that Africans are filthy, think dirty, and that kind of stuff. But I think that's also an eye-opener. But when I also trying to find out from people who have been living in this part of the world, they are telling me the bedbugs and the French people are very close cousins. It's not the first time they are inventing them. They have had their bedbugs for quite some time. And then I was telling someone, can we also now impose, as Africa, a travel ban on these people so that they don't invest us with their stubborn bedbugs? Maybe, yeah, something that, because imagine those bedbugs were in one of the countries of Africa. You would have seen travel warnings, travel bans for people not to go to that country because there are bad bedbugs. But I'm told there are bedbugs in the movie theaters, there are bedbugs on the trains, there are bedbugs on buses, there are bedbugs in schools, there are bedbugs in homes, there are bedbugs all over the place. So I'm like, I think it's also a high time we can impose a travel ban on some of these people so that they don't bring us their bedbugs. And by the way, Rachel, if you have never interacted with bedbugs, but I'm sure most of us who have lived in this part of Africa, of the world, at least have had an interaction with bedbugs. If there is a stubborn insect, it's a bedbug. In the village where I used to live, the way we handled the bedbugs, that we would get hot water and pour, especially on the beds, that then we can kill the bedbugs and their young ones and their eggs. But trust me, you will boil the water at the highest temperature you can do, and then you pour this water on the bedbug, on the bed or a table or where a piece of furniture, because that's where they normally hide. But trust me, when you put that bed or that piece of furniture in the sun, give it some time, you will see bed bugs coming out. Now, there's even a common saying that the bed bug tells its young that when you realize the water is becoming so hot, then you know it's going to stop. Don't panic. So I'm really sympathizing with these guys in Paris, but it also comes at the time when French is having issues elsewhere, especially in Africa, where the new administration in the countries that have, especially in the western part of Africa, where they have taken over power, they are telling them, please get out. So you are getting out only to get home to your bedbugs. You are being thrown out of the lucrative businesses. Uranium, I'm told, in April this year, the French company that is working in Niger discovered the biggest deposit of uranium. So it was a time now for France to celebrate because they have a new catch. But that uranium has also come with problems, and it has not left French safe on that. So for me, it sounds funny, but I was looking at the bedbug infestation in France, and I'm like, oh, look. So these things are not custom made for Africans, that some of these problems can be elsewhere. And of course, before I come to you, Rachel, there's also been the issue of flooding. You saw what was happening in New York. The other time people were complaining in Kampala when we had rain, the first heavy rains of the season, and people were talking about the bad roads, the bad drainage, but when it happened to New York, then you realize that maybe these disasters are not customized for particular areas. But I'll come to you, Rachel.
Well, for this particular week, as always, there are interesting things, not just where we are, but also further afield. Among them is the unprecedented toppling of the Speaker of the U.S. House,
Sure.
Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
And
that was a matter of time.
He has not been in that role very long. It was very difficult for him to secure that vote.
Yeah, but you know how even he came to it.
True.
Yeah.
It was a very difficult struggle, but I think in the end, he has lost that battle. I think what is even more interesting, he does not intend to offer himself anymore for that same position. So the hunt is on for who will replace that particular leader. You are talking about things that are interesting happening, for example, in France. Other things that remind us that many of these situations are just human. There is nothing special about a leadership crisis in Congo or in South Africa. Those same issues are also true in Asia and in North America. Wherever humans are basically the same. They struggle against the same situations in as far as they have a direct bearing on those issues. But nearer home, President Ruto has been exercising his executive mandate to move ministers around, depending on a number of issues that are not always clear. I think the most high profile is the case of moving around Foreign Minister Mutua to another docket, which was deemed a demotion. I don't know why a cabinet post of another name is a demotion. but he's in tourism.
Yeah, it goes with the benefits.
Okay.
Some people have more benefits if you are in the kitchen and when they are serving on the high table, and also for you who is conveying the food between two places, the benefits are not the same. Did you also feel that maybe the reshuffle was a bit early?
It is, but I think it's also an appreciation of the fact by the President Ruto, that things are not moving as he anticipated. These moving around of these individuals, I think, is an appreciation that the service delivery that he envisaged is yet to take shape. Public confidence in these office bearers, I think, is also suffering a setback.
I know. I
think it's an effort to reboot his political promises. There are some who say that the very vigorous support that Mr. Mutua had offered to the UN
order.
Yes, UN. The place that Kenya had offered to fill, in as far as a policing situation had emerged in Haiti, where Mr. Mutua was very vigorously supporting the position that Kenya would provide about at least 1,000 police people to occupy that space, has not been well received in Kenya. Indeed, opposition leader Odinga has really ratcheted up the pressure concerning the ugly scenes, including body bags, that would come out of such a commitment. But that is not to say that he's the only one who's been moved around. Others have also been moved around, and there are cases where this particular foreign affairs docket is now under the principal cabinet secretary, who's thought to be, actually said to be, a very close ally of President Ruto. There are some who say it's an attempt to consolidate the foreign affairs docket under his direct charge. So that is, for me, those were the more prominent happenings here and further away.
Yeah, but so of course some people say Mutua is such an independent mind person, and sometimes for people who are so independent in mind in politics, sometimes can have problems where you have certain principles that are overlapping or overriding from the common position of government. Maybe that could have also been part of, because like these decisions you have been talking about, were they individual positions? I would think that they were cabinet decisions. So why would someone be skinned for doing exactly what they have agreed?
I think that answers, that situation is its own answer. If on account of a position that has been given all kinds of publicity, a position that you've been trumpeting with all your energy, appears to be at variance with other officials, one of the things I think that has stood out is that other security officials have not been very much behind this one, at least not publicly. So if you're talking about this being a cabinet position, there was a concern that the others who would definitely be privy to such a decision have not publicly embraced it. So if you're talking about the independent-minded posture of this gentleman, maybe there was a concern that he was rushing too far ahead of everyone else.
Sure.
And yet, the position of a foreign affairs should be hand in glove with the principal in the executive. So I think this is being interpreted as someone who was out of step with his immediate supervisors.
Yeah, and like he was looking for something for himself.
And they were not going to wait for other scenes.
Yeah, so that is very, very important, because actually we have seen similar scenes play out elsewhere. Not only in the African context, where you think that maybe the bad thing with most of the African countries, of course, we have issues to do with our foreign policy. Our foreign policy keep shifting with individuals. When the president comes in power, will look at different things. Another person comes in power, look at different things. We don't have that resilience, that common stand on specific issues. But sometimes people change their foreign policies based on their relationship with the foreign governments, with the foreign individuals. Or sometimes it is out of need of the policies and programs that are back at home, so that certain things have to change. And finally, Ndugu Irumba is in the house, and I will now use this time to get him on board to tell us how his week in the African context has been, and what have you picked of interest on this big continent of the African people.
Thank you so much, Comrade Tugumututa. Thank you, my comrade here, Rachel Takali. I think I would take it right from where Takali ended. It also caught my eye across the border here, Kenya, when the hustler exercised his power. I don't know whether he's still a hustler now, or he has become into something else. Could be in the league of other African leaders. But I think one of the most significant things I see in his leadership is Kenya is seemingly becoming an extension of Uganda. If you realize how he has carried out his reshuffle, making changes, Mutua, from foreign to another cabinet post, and now the undertones. It takes me back to when the president of Uganda appointed the former Speaker of Parliament as the second Prime Minister? Second Deputy Prime Minister in charge of East African affairs. The same undertones that came in Uganda. How can you, she has been number 3 in the hierarchy, eh? And now she's simply not the Prime Minister, but the second deputy. and so I don't know whether being during his swearing in ceremony, he clearly decided Muzei Wakazi, the leader of this East African Great Region. I don't know whether he has as well taken into context his full advice, or is simply copying the notes that they could be sharing every now and then. But I see Kenya an extension of Uganda, or vice versa. Even when you look at it now.
I don't think so.
That is my opinion.
Yeah, because your opinion, but I think it is also, well, it is possible that some people can...
Because even when you look at how now the security agencies are now handling the opposition figures, it is becoming like how we are handling here.
But certain things happen. We have seen how oppositions, of course, let alone that how opposition people have been handled in Uganda or in Kenya, but also look at how opposition people have behaved in the rest of Africa. You have seen how that has happened in most of the African countries. Now, actually, when you're talking about the opposition issues, yesterday I think we had the other dose of
same
it.
script.
Yeah, when this Chagulanyi arrived from South Africa, and then he's taken home, and then of course people are saying he has been arrested, he has been kidnapped, he has been. But I think, like you are saying, sometimes being in opposition in Africa is not an easy job. There are two things that you have to justify. You have to justify that the government in power is a bad government. So you have to do all those things to show that this government is actually bad. But also, you also have to justify to your funders that you are doing some good job. So you have to do all that. Now, I don't know if people in the opposition expect government to just sit and look at them do that. I don't know. Or you expect that people will just keep quiet for you to be able to exercise your democratic right. But then I normally, when I'm sharing with people on this democratic rights, I also tell people that not only even democratic rights, all rights have responsibilities. That you have to exercise your rights, but within the limits of those responsibilities. Yes, because if you are going to have your absolute right, then no one's going to have any right at all. That community is not going to have any rights. And sometimes, and for the African issues, we used to think these things are in Africa. But when Trump attacked the Capitol, then you realize that politics world over is the same. Because for him was even worse. No African government has ever done that. That you can organize a coup of your own government. No, it doesn't happen easily in Africa. But if it happened in Africa, then we'll hear all these good friends of people saying, you know, that is an attack on the temple of democracy, blah, blah, blah. But no one, again, is ever to mention anything. I know Rachel was about to mention something about the cases of Trump that are not stopping, but she fell short to do that. But that guy is also having his own stories.
If I must, since you bring it up. The latest throwing out of Speaker McCarthy was a triumph of the Trump experiment. Because remember, these are people who are siding with Mr. Trump, accusing McCarthy of becoming soft on Biden and his party. He says they should never have struck a deal to make sure the government remains funded to continue doing its work.
Yeah, they want to shut down.
So I think they wanted to start a sort of strike action within the House, and Mr. McCarthy was having none of it. So Trump, from his political grave, if you so speak, is still exercising power. And
Sure,
but what I think is even more interesting, Mr. Trump is on record saying the Republican Party is eating itself from the inside out. So while these people are claiming that they represent the most conservative of the Republicans,
yes,
they have no business tearing the very thread of the entire party in the name. The white man says something about cutting off the nose to spite the face. The face needs the nose. So if you remove the face, the nose, talking about you helping the face, it doesn't make sense.
Sure.
So I thought Mr. Trump showed a rare form. Okay, he came out with a rare form of sanity that is not characteristic of his style, because he's usually selfish to the core, but he realizes this infighting may cost him in the end.
Exactly, and of course but you know, Trump is not. Well, we'll have a day to discuss about that.
He's not mad, you mean? No, he's not mad.
So viewers, we, like I said, we are trying to have time, also wait for Right Honorable Minister of East African Affairs, who will be with us, inshallah, any moment soon, to discuss about the issues of the East African Customs Union. Something that has really stuck out on this issue is the free trade, the free exchange of goods and services within this particular region of the East African community. But we still have issues on some of the borders that Uganda maize can be stopped going to stand because it has issues. The Uganda maize can be denied, or milk and eggs in Kenya, and when you go to Tanzania, you have to pay money. Until recently, I was told yesterday, when we were sharing with some officials from the East African community, that Ugandans are still paying for entry into DRC, the visa entry, and yet we think we were here and told people that the East African DRC has now become part of the East African community. So these are some of the issues that we wanted to share with the former speaker, because I think when this East African thing was started, she was in parliament as a speaker, and I think I know she's one of the most informed about the issues of this East African community. And of course, the other person who has been passionate and pushing for the East African integration is the President of the Republic of Uganda. And of
But I
course,
think even Ndugu Mututa, talking of borders, you know, this is not a new issue. And I hope we'll throw some light on the fact that we are easing into the anniversary, the 61st anniversary of our independence.
Yes.
But that aside, I was thinking that in connection with one of the more prominent Pan-Africanists of our era, we were talking about Ndugu Nkrumah. Ndugu Nkrumah had gone to examine or to internalize the issue of borders between his country and a neighboring country when he was overthrown.
Exactly.
You know, he was very intent on making sure that these borders would become history. So the issues of borders, what I'm trying to say, are not a new thing. The dilemmas, the repercussions of every variety stretch back even to the independence era. I thought I would slot that in.
No, it's important because when you bring in Kwame Nkrumah was one of the African leaders who, in his opinion, thought that we needed a united Africa at a go, without having to have to all these countries. And then I think part of the problem that he got was that he was being problematic to the West. And no wonder when he went to China, the colonials organized with the army and the police to overthrow him, so that he will not be able to move that. Because these people know, I was telling you as we were beginning this program, that in April, the French company discovered the biggest deposit in Niger of uranium. But that celebration, I think, has not lasted. Now
they haven't left.
But I'm also sure that while that has happened, someone could have also used that chance. And you know, of course, now France is one of the biggest exporters of uranium and the products that are related to uranium. But where are they
From
getting
Mali.
this? Exactly, where are they getting this uranium?
It means France are the biggest thieves of uranium in the world.
Well,
Those things are not new.
I'm not calling them thieves because two reasons. First of all, the Africans themselves have concessions, have signed agreements with these people. So a person who you have an agreement with, you cannot talk of rape when he opened the door and you entered. But you can also think about the naivety, if at all, of the African leadership. And you know, the good thing that the last 2 days in Ndugu Nkrumah has not been with us, we will be talking about why is this happening in a house that has the head? Why is this happening on the continent of Africa when we have the African Union? Can't the African Union say, now, take charge of the issues of the African Union? Then why are we having the leadership of the African Union? These are some of the issues, of course, that we shall be looking at some point to see if we are moving any better. But
African Union is a dead horse.
yeah, but even a dead horse can also have some benefit. It's not completely dead. But away from that, Rachel, when last time we were talking about this issue of the independence of African countries. Now we are heading into we're in the week of independence for Uganda. And when we look at the issue of the East African integration and the relationship with the independence of the African, but now we're talking about the East African states, where do you see us fitting these two?
We cannot really speak about the independence movement, divorcing it from the chief proponent of such a position in our era. Well, he was an era before us, but in living memory, let me put it that way, who was Ndugu Nkrumah, of course, the very people who spearheaded, or at least led our countries into the independence era, among them Julius Nyerere, and among them Jomo Kenyatta, even Milton Obote,
Sure.
had variously interfaced with this gentleman. We know that Jomo Kenyatta, who was at the forefront of Kenyan independence, which came to the fore in '63, was a person who had interacted with Nkrumah back in the Pan-African Convention of 1945 in Manchester in the United Kingdom. There, their notes were compared. We are talking about East Africa and how the Pan-Africanist ideas came to influence what became the independent states as of today. Towards the end of the 19th century and into the early part of the 20th century, we know very well that the principal proponents of Pan-Africanism, and by the way, many people don't realize what Pan-Africanism is. Pan-Africanism is the belief that the peoples of African heritage or African ancestry, wherever they may be, have common interests, and that everything has to be done under heaven to make sure that they are united, and going forward there is a solidarity across the board. But the proponents of this idea, before the Africans who spearheaded the independence movement came to the fore, were men such as Marcus Garvey, who was Jamaican for all purposes, and of course there was W.E.B. Du Bois, who was an African American. Those people had also drawn inspiration to liberate their peoples from towering philosophers and deep thinkers of the day, among them Lenin and even Karl Marx. So Nkrumah, who at that time, in the early 1930s, was benefiting from an American education, immersed himself in this writing, the writings of these people, culminating into the 1945 convention I just spoke about. It is there that Jomo Kenyatta first met Nkrumah. But then there was a meeting of the minds, because these were people. Kenyatta was also very much into spearheading the independence in his own backyard.
Yes.
And Nyerere came to also internalize the beliefs of Mr. Nkrumah, although he was on record believing that it should be a gradual process, this disentangling from the white man. Whereas Nkrumah was obsessed with the independence now, not just of Ghana, but all of Africa.
Yes.
I mentioned, I think, that I was interested to, it was very interesting to me to find out that the constitution that Uganda started out with was crafted and concluded in Ghana.
Sure.
We are talking about the footprint, not just in East Africa, but also beyond. You see, during the time that Nkwame was at the helm of Ghanaian affairs, Mr. Mugabe was one of those people who are struggling to free his people, who was able to benefit from the atmosphere of these high ideas, to the point that he even married a Ghanaian woman, the first wife.
Yes.
But the immediate beneficiaries of this movement were not limited to East Africa. It wasn't limited to South Africa alone. Even Patrice Lumumba, by the time of his demise, he was fully locked into the Nkrumah vision. Even Gamal Nasser, you know that he was the one who negotiated the marriage of Nkrumah to the Egyptian wife. You know this?
Exactly.
He gave the dowry. Are you aware?
Yeah.
He even stood surety.
Even the meeting between the two before the marriage, she is the one who arranged.
He even stood surety because the mother of the Egyptian bride was not comfortable with her daughter going that distance where she could not easily visit and so on.
Most in the deep
and he
black
said, all right,
Africans.
to make it easy on you, we'll open an embassy in Ghana. Even to provide that you are able to go there by air every so often to visit your daughter. I am trying to answer the how East Africa actually plugged into this Pan-Africanist vision. The people who started independence as we know it today were lock, stock and barrel into the vision of the African superstate, and that political unity was not something that we could deal with casually. It was something that we must strive towards at any cost.
Exactly.
Independence financially, independence economically, educationally, was something they thought would best be delivered with a unified governance. So we are sitting and benefiting from an independence movement that actually started quite far from where we are.
Many people, when you talk to some Ugandans, some quarters of Uganda, and of course not only in Uganda, of course many other African countries will tell you that maybe the independence came faster, earlier than we would have expected. That maybe we are not independent, and maybe, but at the same time, you also come to think about it, that whether you believe or you don't believe that we needed independence, the independence did come. And now that it came for Africans, it is the beginning to appreciate that our problems could be solved by the people, the Africans ourselves. Now, where we have failed, then we have also had issues to like you said, sometimes we got independence, but those who were from whom we got the independence did not go. They still remained around. Now, these are some of the issues. Are we doing better than when we were under the colonialists? Have we improved better than when we used to be, when we were colonized? Are we doing ourselves justice than when we were under those other people? But these are some of the discussions that we'll be looking at as we wait for the minister. But shortly after the break, we'll be back to share on some of these issues. And of course, some people have sent the information here on the WhatsApp number. We'll be responding to some of these questions, and then we'll have our discussions running on. Don't go away. We are breaking off shortly. We shall be back after this break with more discussions and more information that we'll share with you people, and all that also will share with us. Thank you so much. Don't go away.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, DSTV channel 282, GoTV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
Did you know that the Union Jack differs from the current national flag of Uganda? The Union Jack, also known as the Union flag, is the national flag of the United Kingdom, whereas the Uganda flag is the national flag of Uganda. The Union Jack was used as the official flag of several British colonies, including Uganda, before they adopted their own national flags, while the Uganda flag was used in Uganda after gaining her independence in 1962. The Union Jack flag is created with the aspects of three other national flags: St. George's Red Cross of the Kingdom of England, St. Andrew's White Saltire of Scotland, and St. Patrick's Red Saltire of the Irelands. While the Uganda flag consists of 6 equal horizontal stripes of black at the top, yellow and red, with each color having a meaning. Within the middle is the grey-crested crane, which is the national bird for Uganda. The Union Jack has been in existence since 1606, when England and Scotland merged, but changed to its current form in 1801 when Ireland joined the United Kingdom, whereas the Uganda flag was adopted in 1962 when Uganda attained her independence. As the British Union Jack was being lowered down, the Uganda flag was raised up. You can't imagine the happiness that Ugandans got.
Nibanyita kananye niyita Sezi Nuwagaba, commercial officer at Ntungamo District Government.
I am Sezi Nuwagaba, the commercial officer for Ntungamo Local Government. I express my gratitude to God for this platform and the Emyuga initiative brought to us by His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, as it has positively transformed the lives of the people in Ntungamo, whom I have known for a long time. When you visit the beneficiaries of this program, you can easily witness the significant positive changes in their lives. The audit report demonstrates that despite their leader being deaf and blind, profits are being made, highlighting how this program has actively engaged and evolved every individual. Initially, we received 2,650 million Uganda shillings. Each constituency received 530 million Uganda shillings. I would like to express my gratitude to this platform for providing us with the opportunity to share information about the Emyuga program. Our special thanks go to the President for initiating the program, and additionally, I would like to mention that there are numerous similar projects in Rubare and Ntungamo.
Mukoke Fish Farmers Association tuli balunzi ba byananda ebyebika ebisatu omuli Miracap, Tilapia oba engege ni catfish twete male. Group eno twatandika twali abantu basatu nga tulingirira obwetaavu obwebyenanda obw'obwiva eno okubona nti tufuna okasente akava mu maadi agali gatambula butambule nga gatubita ku wano ng'ekirabo. Twatandika ni fish pond ndala mu mwaka gw'e2018. Twebaza fisheries officer ni district ya Bugiri babanga batulagirira Kusani Fish Farm ebwikwe inside day ndeyo twabanga tusobola okufuna kwetusaako obugege obwasooka era mu mwaka ogwali 2022 awo basobola okubanga batuwaayo ebyenanda emitwalo $4 okuva mu operation Werese Creation era okuba yongereza ku emmere yatuweebwa okuva Ugachik Poultry Breeders. Twasobola okubanga tusoloza akasente akawerera obukayire nga 42. Twasobola okubanga tubuinvestinga oba okubona nti twongerezaako ku bimu ku bintu bye tukola gano. Twebaza gavumenti yaife okubanga buli saawa efaayo okubanga efeeri y'Abannayuganda.
So this is my general perception. One, that this project entered in strategic areas of government, but that it has created a base for the now last mile strategy, which is the parish development model. And therefore this base that it has left will help us actually, and I'm sure we'll get better results in a Chole area and Adjumani when we are implementing the parish development model.
City market lies in 4 acres of land with a population of about 4,000 registered market vendors who are doing business in this facility. We really appreciate the initiative of the government to come up with this project that is benefiting not only the business community within the market, but the entire community within actually sub-region. When you look at the market previously, the market used to be not like this one. With the market vendors, they used to sell under papyrus reeds. And we used also to ferry our goods, come and sell, then you take it in the stores or elsewhere. But now, due to this infrastructural development, the vendors now, they are able now to sell, cover your goods, leave it there, and you come and get it the next day when it is safe. The safety of our goods and the convenience of doing business has improved greatly. That makes the local community very, very, very happy when they are doing business in the market now. I want to appeal to my fellow vendors and the community, of the entire Chile sub-region, that we need to embrace and support the government so that they continue also bringing us more development in our region.
Yeah, we'll come back from that break. By the time we went off the screens, we were talking about the independence of Africa and looking at a number of issues that led to the independence of the African countries, but also if Africans themselves believe that that independence was worth it or appreciate that we are independent. Of course, we have heard undertone saying, maybe we are not independent, how can you have independence when this is happening? But that notwithstanding, the truth of the matter is that these countries, Africans, are independent. Now, whichever decisions that we make now may be influenced, fine, but still we are independent to take those decisions. No one is forcing us. If we chose the contrary, still no one will stop us from doing that. So it is important also to appreciate that maybe not everything has gone well from the time of independence, because those from whom we got independence may not have wished us well. The last time you heard when this lady was talking about that France, especially notorious as then were, destroyed some of the facilities in the countries that got stubbornly got independence from France. That you had the sewage systems filled with cement. The other time I saw cars being destroyed, of course, a lot has been talked that, it was not the French team, it was the Canadian team and whatever. So people, like Rachel said, they could have left physically, but the ghosts have hung around. And these are some of the issues that we are seeing in the independence of Africa, that we still have influences that you may not expect the independent states to have, but we still have some of those issues. Now, Rachel, you were talking about this gentleman, Kwame Nkrumah, that he wanted Africa to be independent as an entity, to have an African continent, in an African state, an African country as one country. But of course, I think if he was if he lived to see his dream, by today we'll be talking about Africa as a country, and maybe as a united, or the United States of Africa, as we have seen from elsewhere. But you also realize that, like Gaddafi, Kwame Nkrumah was also betrayed by his own African Africans, the heads of state in Africa. Kwame Nkrumah had gone around trying to meet African states, heads of state, to help him when he was having problems back at home. By the time he had to go to China, after meeting with the Russians, he was looking for ways of consolidating his support. But wherever he was going, he was asking the Africans, say, please, we need to come together. He had problems back at home as a person because the guys at home were not, I can say, it's not actually the Africans themselves, but even those who are influencing people at home kept pushing up that pressure. So sometimes, much as we talk of independence, and the Africans, the African that we are looking at, the leadership in Africa also needs to be sober. Because if we don't do that, these influences, the invisible hand you have been talking about, will still be there and will still be disorganizing us. But we are talking about the independence now. In Uganda, we are going for the celebrations on 9th, celebrating the independence of this country, and we are also looking at the achievements that we have scored as the people of Uganda, but of course also the rest of Africa. And I will ask Ndugu Irumba if you have something to contribute on that, because I know you are also already coming in with the independence of Africa, starting with Uganda.
Okay, thank you, Ndugu Mututa. Uganda will be celebrating 61 years of the so-called independence on Monday, to be precise, I think. And the national celebrations are going to be, which district is that?
Kitgum.
Kitgum district. Now, the issue is, let's look at the larger context of Africa when you're talking about independence. Uganda, 61 years, Ghana the other day, the other week, Kenya coming up. Kwame Nkrumah wanted, from that conference that you talked about, he didn't want an independence that would seem like the white man is absent in the continent, but he's present. And then, like what is happening now? The white man is absent, but he's present, very much so. That's number one. Number two, Kwame wanted, and this is why Gaddafi died. He died trying to implement Kwame's dream. Kwame wanted, like you see, United States of America, they are united in order to make synergies, to advance in terms of capabilities. United Kingdom, United Arab Emirates. When you look at India, India is one country, but it has 1.3 billion people. In terms of GDP, you can't even compare it with the entire Africa. Now, look at China. Look at Russia. All those are big countries. That's why even they are fighting. They think one of the things that Putin is fighting with Ukraine is that you were initially a part of us, and we are still brothers. So we cannot allow you to go to America, that America should manage you. No, you are still part of us. So Kwame wanted to create a United States of Africa. And now we even have an idea that if you don't want to be United States of Africa, which is USA, to seem like you're copying the United States of America, you can call it the United Kingdom of Africa, because
then you need a king.
United Kingdom of Africa, UKA, United Kingdom of Africa, because these are kingdoms. Africa is
then you'll make countries chiefdoms.
No, they can be states, but it's United Kingdom of Africa. The other can be states, the state of Uganda, the state of Kenya, the state of...
Those will be chief, if you made a kingdom, that will be a chiefdom.
Those are ideas that can come on table, and they are discussed thoroughly.
Then Kwame and Gaddafi died trying to create there is this World Bank and IMF, and the whole world thinks that World Bank is for the world, including Africa. No, this is a private company being managed in America by certain individuals, and IMF, the National Monetary Fund. These are private individuals, camouflage. Like here you see, I will not mention the names of the radio station and the TVs, but there is a kingdom here where they say this radio and TV belongs to this kingdom. But actually when you go inside, that radio belongs to a person. It belongs to a person. So World Bank and IMF, that's what it is. They simply use the other World Bank that is for the world, but it is actually a camouflage. But now, Gaddafi wanted to create a bank for Africa. Gaddafi wanted to create a currency that is backed by a dollar. I mean by gold, not dollar. A currency for Africa backed by a gold, because Africa is well endowed with all mineral resources, including gold. So right now, $1 of America is equivalent to 3,600 worth of Uganda shillings, but the dollar is backed with nothing apart from paperwork. There is nothing.
Yeah, but it is you people who yourselves. You have uranium. You have now that the French are taking.
The point is that you are selling to me $1 to me, Africa, Uganda, at 3,600, but you are simply printing a paper that you are putting value for me to exchange my wealth, which is in gold, uranium, and oil, and so on. And then in the long run, you are draining me. So Gaddafi wanted to create a currency for Africa that is backed by a dollar, and that currency should be managed by Africa.
Let's hear this. Someone is sending a message here saying that that countries that got independence after strong uprisings, as the Mau Mau, Maji, with no regrets, got full independence. However, I believe the countries that just sat on a round table with the colonialists didn't fully have the control, since there were a few restrictions imposed on them. And they said it is because when one sits on a round table, there is always a quick pro war that you have to do this and you have to do this. So he's saying for those that fought, at least fought for, this is someone called Mwanje, I think is a president of Uganda Law Students Association, say that when you just negotiate, it is not as when you struggle for it. Is that even true?
It's always a win-win situation. You let go and you gain. You give this and you allow. And you take this, so you take that. So now,
and another one is saying, yeah, they was. Let me so have this message said. This one is saying that the realization of from the time to time, or talk about the integration of East Africa from the 70s, and the second we have our seniors who have never been paid in retirement package. It is neighbors Kenya and Tanzania have settled their ES citizens, but not Uganda. I think this is something that we shall refer to our colleagues in the East African community to explain when they will have time to be here. I hope the minister will be here, could talk about that briefly if she does come here, and to explain why Uganda has not been able to pay some, but I think that some payments have been made. I'm not sure though, but they will explain that. So back on the issue of the union, of the treaty. This treaty of the customs union within the East African bloc was signed in 2014. But like we said, I hope the minister comes. Up to now, we still have some restrictions in some of the countries. Sudan, for example, has been very notorious with some of the restrictions on the some of the accesses of the products that come from other countries to that place. But also I know some restrictions have been also registered in Kenya, but also in Tanzania. So, and Uganda, according to the information now that we have, has opened its borders. People are coming in, going out with no restrictions on the items that are being traded in this country. Are we moving so fast?
I think it's a question of being in a weaker position. A weaker position. We know that the economy of Kenya is many times bigger than ours. We know that the economy of Tanzania is bigger than ours. So I think these concessions on our part are very much a realization that while they need us, I think in the short term we need them more. So even when they erect their barriers, and I've said this many times before, that one of the most sly ways that national leaders refused to cede political power is by erecting non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers are easy to pass off as impediments of the bureaucrats. It is easy for national leaders to claim that it is officials in the trade ministries who are not implementing this thing, and it is officials in the works ministry who are now doing such and such a thing, because they don't want to cede any power. At the end of the day, a sharp divide that was manifested upon the onset of the independence era, when the groups of African nations identified themselves as belonging to either the Casablanca group or the Brazzaville group or the Monrovia group, those divisions are still alive and well today. We know that the Casablanca group was anchored by Nkrumah, and they argued that they had to have total and complete independence, and now. They were radical, they were forceful, they were totally consumed by the idea of political unity to begin with. Even before you talked about socio-economic welfare and so on and so forth, they said, seek ye first the kingdom of political unity.
Exactly.
And all the other things will be added unto you. There were people who were sitting firmly on the fence and would not be moved 1 inch forward. They said, look, our way forward is the path of moderate and gradual disentanglement from the colonial enterprise. Among them was Nyerere, who insisted that the economic blocks would be the way to this dream. To his credit, by the time of his demise, he had actually acknowledged that the clean and forceful break that Nkrumah advocated should have been the way forward.
Was the best way, yeah.
There were others, and to their credit, even late credit, the nations of West Africa that are currently agitating to break fully, completely, and forcefully from France were represented by a group of people back in the independence era who said, look, we need our mother France, we swear by our mother France, we have been done well, there is no reason. Well, the ancestors are saying that was the wrong path.
I tell you.
I think they were intimidated by the French, who said, by way of written agreement, our forces will guarantee your security. As a result, they left their military men there. They said, we'll guarantee your economic welfare. As a result, they took their reserves.
Yeah, some of them had been given mansions in Paris and other places. So that comfort alone. And in fact, someone also has said that our leaders sometimes are so comfortable with the wealth they have accumulated because of the power they hold. So they fear losing this power in the name of African uniting as one, as Africa uniting as one.
It's very true. The present interpretation of Pan-Africanism is miles apart from what Nkrumah had in mind. Nkrumah, so much so that at the time of Ghanaian independence, he declared that the issue of Ghanaian independence was also a turning point, was a sign of the rebirth of the African man, such that he was ready and showing that he's capable not only of championing his interests, but of handling them himself. He envisioned that the Ghanaian independence was only the beginning.
Exactly.
And that is why he threw himself head and shoulders into helping the others to also break free.
Yeah, exactly.
Your question was, are we moving forward? Today we are still plagued by the same divisions, the moderates, the radicals, and the fence-sitters. The fence-sitters are the ones who say the cost of this political unity is too high. I'll preserve the interests of my family and myself. Excuse me. So today, there is a critical shortage of people of the Nkrumah persuasion. People who say it is a excuse me.
I know, because then that means when you look at it like this gentleman had put it, is that there are those who seem to be benefiting from the status quo. And when you look at this, when we finally integrate, it means there is a lot of ceding of certain powers that you have to gain, but you also have to give out something before you can gain. But there's also something that we also wanted to hear when the issue of the customs union, especially for the East African community, was being, and what does that mean actually? Because now we seem to be running low on time. The minister may be held in some businesses, but let's hear this clip on the East African customs union. Then we'll get back to you.
The single customs territory is a program that we have initiated in 2014. The commencement date was the 1st of January 2014, and it is essentially a consolidation level of the customs union. Under the treaty, under Article 74 and 75, the partner states committed themselves to fully liberalizing trade in the region, and all this would be achieved through enhanced trade facilitation, so that we promote intra-EAC trade. We also promote investment, industrialization, and also become competitive on the global setting.
Prior to the implementation of the single customs territory, goods entering the East African region had to be cleared at every border they passed through, which was costly and cumbersome. Additionally, the lack of proper cargo tracking meant transit goods could easily be diverted during the transportation to the destination country. The establishment of the single customs territory has led to the removal of restrictive regulations and reduced customs control on internal borders of the partner states. Now, goods entering the region are cleared only once at the first point of entry. 48 hours before a ship reaches an East African port, it sends cargo information to the Revenue Authority at the first point of entry. The Revenue Authority at the point of entry sends this information to the Customs Authority of the country where the goods are going. The importer in the destination country is then required to process the customs declaration and pay all necessary taxes required by the destination country. Once the taxes have been paid, the customs authorities of the destination country assigns a risk criteria to the cargo. Cargo that is marked blue, green, or yellow is released after all conditions have been filled. Cargo that is marked red undergoes physical examination, and any necessary additional steps are taken before it is released. The customs authorities of the destination country sends a release note to the Revenue Authority at the point of entry. The point of entry Revenue Authority seals risky goods with an electronic cargo tracking device, and the cargo is transported to the destination country. Cargo that has been fitted with electronic seals moves along designated transport corridors that have been geomapped and is monitored by the Electronic Cargo Tracking System centers. When it deviates from the designated route or is stationary for a long time, the system alerts customs authorities who physically go to see what the issue is. This prevents unauthorized unloading mid-journey. The designated cargo transport corridors are the Northern Corridor, which goes from Mombasa to Malaba to Kigali and Bujumbura, and the Central Corridor, which goes from Dar es Salaam to Rusumo in Rwanda and Kabanga in Burundi. The single customs territory also provides a simplified goods clearing process for export, transit, and interregional goods. Export goods are declared and duty is paid at the country of origin. The goods are then sealed with an electronic cargo tracking device and tracked through the transit countries until they reach the point where they exit the region. Cargo coming from outside the East African region and which passes through the single customs territory on its way to a foreign country is processed at the first point of entry into...
No, thank you for that clip. Now, when you look at that, and we have been having these issues of stoppages and the issues of denying these products, and speaking especially for Uganda, because for us we are the ones who have been hit in this, might just have moved faster in observance of this treaty. I think we have suffered more. We have had our, up to now, I think the process is on of compensating traders who have been trading in Sudan. We have had issues with the milk, with the maize, around the eggs, the Kenya border, and also have issues with the Tanzanian borders also. So, Rachel, where do you think, given this information that this is what's supposed to be done, where do you think there's a problem?
We have said before that one of our most important barriers is mental, psychological. We've spoken variously, especially in Ndugurugarama, about the fact that even when the colonizer left, the software is very much in place.
Exactly.
You cannot hope to break free, and yet you're a result of an education system that is in place to serve the interests of another. We have been slow in realizing that there is no foreigner who can work harder for your welfare than yourself. We have been slower to realize that, in fact, the very foundations on which our societies sit, come the post-independence era, are incapable of serving us in as far as delivering the super state is concerned. So many of the things that we keep redoing time and time again are things that have their basis in the foundation of these modern states.
Sure.
When these people left us, they left us certain things in place. We spoke last week about the way the original East African community was structured, where Kenya was set up as the industrial hub to supply Tanzania and Kenya, and Uganda rather, which was supposed to only supply raw materials, while the industry and capital of commerce was elsewhere. We have been slow in replacing that blueprint. Some progress has been made, but I'm afraid that individuals, even as the structures have changed, we as human beings have not necessarily changed that much in our outlook. Believe me, there are people in corridors of power in these our nations who believe that national issues must supersede community issues, even when they occupy offices in an East African community ministry. There are people in corridors of power who pay lip service to the issue of African unity and then do exactly the opposite. That in itself is a significant barrier. Remember, when someone is at the helm of a political system, they influence everything of critical importance in that space. So when a leader says, I am part of an East African arrangement, and closes a border the following day, Well, they're saying the right things. They mean, at least to the eye, what they say. But the actions are at variance.
Sure.
These sorts of actions are repeated countless times across the region, maybe not to the same degree. When someone says, please, bring your produce, and then they erect these standards overnight, unilaterally moreover, it is that reason, the bureaucrats that we heap all this blame on are not the principal reason for our dilemma. It is the political leaders. It is not even the ordinary citizens, because they benefit when there is good and booming trade across the borders. But it always boils down to those people who never wanted to cede power when we started the independence journey. Their ancestors are doing the same thing. Because then you will technically be reduced to the level of a chief. You're no longer the king. We have not risen to that level of selflessness. In fact, in that time, there were biting critics of Mr. Nkrumah, among them a man called Tafawa Balewa, who was the Prime Minister of Nigeria, who accused this man of self-aggrandizement. He said, no, you want to take the carpet of power from under us to heap it on your own head. The other guy was like, look, I'm not talking about being at the helm of this thing. Let's just realize the unity. The reason, as I said, why we are moving as slow as we are moving, these people do not want to cede national power. If there was total consensus at the top, in Kenya and in Tanzania and in Uganda and DRC and in Sudan and in Burundi, I'm talking at the topmost level, there would be a true federation in just a few years.
In fact, even the issue of political federation could have even been faster.
Yes.
Or they could have said, let's begin with that one, and then the rest, like the Nkrumahs were saying, let's begin with the political power, and then the rest will come its way.
These personal empires are impeding the superstate.
But at the same time, we are now expecting Ethiopia, we're expecting Djibouti, we're expecting Somalia.
But remember, the common vision is not political unity. The common vision is everything else but okay. Their chairs.
Everything else can unite.
You can unite the health, but the political power, no.
That's the biggest problem, and that's the biggest impediment, I think, to the African unity. That the problem is, it is the politicians that must lead the unification of Africa, socially, economically, and politically. But then, the moment you unify Africa, socially and economically, now the last bit would be political integration. Now that would call for one president of Africa. Then the rest would become like governor states. Now, nobody, no politician is willing to secede that power. And so they will delay these other processes. That's why the other day, Kenya is just our brother here. Ruto has been here at State House almost every evening. But they will tell you, take your eggs to Kenya. They reach at the border and say, your eggs are not good enough. But these are the eggs we've grown up eating. And when we enter into Kenya, we'll even find worse eggs manufactured in Kenya than the ones in Uganda. But they will tell you these ones are not to the standard. Same applies to the milk. When you go inside Kenya, you will find people taking worse milk in terms of quality than ours. But yours, they will say, no, the quality is not good. So what does this tell you? This tells you that it is the political system, the template, that is creating every roadblock to total unification. Because if you hasten it, now the people will say, I think now we are one. The only problem now is this one, presidency. Let us also have one. So this must take like 100 years to unify socially and economically. So that it will take another 1,000 years to unify politically when these ones have left. But also remember, those that are coming in, I've just given an example that William Ruto seems to be taking notes from his elder. Everything. So it means that this culture will continue. Can you imagine 61 years later when Uganda got independence, Nkrumah had said, please, let's have one Uganda. These people said, no.
One Africa, not one Uganda.
Sorry, one Africa. No. Let's go slow. Let's go slow. These demarcations, the boundaries of countries had been put in by colonial masters. They were not there. Now you're saying, let's go slow. Let us respect them. Why are you respecting them? Because they are giving you what you need. They're answering your personal interests. That I'm the president of Ghana, I'm the president of Rwanda, I'm the president of Uganda. They are giving you those interests as a person, not as a people. By the way, the people of East Africa, the people of Africa, for them, most of them even are already united. Because when I leave here and go to Rwanda, I am at home. My uncle is in the Rwandan army. My uncle has given children with the Rwandan woman. So he's Ugandan, he's Rwandan. The children are Ugandan, they are Rwandan. When they come here, they are at home. When they go to Rwanda, they are actually at home. Same applies to me. There are many families that go to the borders of Uganda and Rwanda. They dig in the morning in Uganda, they sleep in the evening in Rwanda. Go to the borders of Congo and Uganda. Go to the border of Sudan, South Sudan and Uganda. Go to the borders of Kenya and Uganda. We are one people. But who must keep us divided? The politician. Why? Because it serves his personal interests.
Yeah, because one here is saying that true independence of the black man need to come in phases by creating a powerful and stable states which foreigners can't overthrow at will, and by creating opposing non-state actors and causing insecurity. Then strengthening the interstate trade through building of connecting infrastructures and unity of security forces which can have numbers that challenge any foreign force.
Those observations are interesting, that that individual is revisiting the issue of gradualism. In their view, is gradualism moving us any nearer? If after 60 years you really are not making meaningful progress, 61. Can you say we should continue? Isn't there a place for revisiting the nature of your movement? If moving from here to Khartoum takes you 16 years, and you soon find out that there is another way of reaching Khartoum in 2 years, why would you stay with this course of 16 years? There have been situations, in other words, the political leaders, there are sectors that are functioning a lot closer to the dream. We're now talking about this economic bloc, the East African Community. There are certain sectors where you can see that there has been meaningful movement and over a fairly limited time. Why don't they compare notes? What is it? Are we waiting for a scholar to come from Beijing to explain what should be? Sure. Are we waiting for scholars to come from North America to tell us what should be? Why would we continue to say we want to direct our own affairs, and yet the directing of these affairs is not really something to be proud of? Why would we continue on a path that is an exercise in futility? Why is it not an African practice to scrutinize the reasons why we don't move as we should? This East African Community idea is not new. Why isn't there a dedicated effort to dissect the reasons why the first one did not work? And if this one is working, where can we do better? I really don't hear any vigorous arguments around those ones.
And like Irumba said, I think the people seem to be moving faster than
then why? Why isn't someone trying to find out why the ordinary man is able to make. Is it because there's no bureaucracy in ordinary relations?
Yeah, because for me, if I have my beans, I want to sell them. I want to sell them now because I want the money.
Then why doesn't someone spend all their time seeing how to reduce the bureaucracy? If the bureaucracy is not delivering, bureaucracy should not be because it can be there, or because that's why governments have been run since the white man started governing. Are you sure that's the only way forward? They must be. You see, the Japanese man has they have a way of doing their things, which they call continuous improvement. In other words, when a Toyota,
Japanese language?
No. It is I don't know whether to call it a philosophy, but it's called continuous improvement. In other words, if a Toyota vehicle runs off the assembly line this minute, a 2023 brand new Toyota, Toyota, what Toyota?
Whichever name.
Whatever name it is. The moment it rolls off the assembly line, the development team of the next one is hard at work immediately. Such that by the time the 2024 Toyota Land Cruiser is rolled off, there will be noticeable differences. It may not be marked in the body style, but there will be something that has been added to the performance. In other words, for them, they never say, just because we have a Ministry of East African Affairs, now we should clap and rest until there's a significant problem. Why don't we take good leaves from these people's book? We are good at imitating things that are not good for us. But why shouldn't we imitate those ones that are?
But of course, I think what you are saying is also very pertinent, but also the other problem of going back from where others have stopped. Because that also kills our perfection, that we are not able to perfect anything, because when you leave and I come in, I start my own. I don't want to be associated with whatever, however good it was, what you did.
But the people you're benchmarking, you know, we spend a lot of time benchmarking. We send people to Moscow to benchmark the steel industry. We send people to Istanbul to benchmark the tourism industry. We sent another lot to benchmark in New Delhi, agro-processing. Is that how they've built? By trashing the performance of the former? By obsessing about being the originators of everything? Why don't we perfect our work? That is a question we should answer as we observe this independence.
Exactly. Now, as we go in Independence Week, well, of course, we're already in the Independence Week of Uganda, and of course, many other countries across the continent could also be following suit in celebrating their independence. We seem to think that independence, and that's also another big misconception, independence is only for governments in power. And I've seen this happen a number of times in Uganda here. Tomorrow you will see the opposition saying, that is for movement. But there's also a mistake that governments also can make to believe that it is only the government that can celebrate. Can't we come together and we celebrate this independence, whether we are in the opposition, whether we're in the government, even when we're not celebrating it together, but also at the same time? Supposing an invitation, and I remember the other year when the invitation was extended, I think to Dr. Besigye to come for a celebration, and he didn't show up. So do you think that these differences also makes it even anywhere necessary?
I think I was somewhere yesterday, and one of the people in that space was talking about our obsession with small things. It has come to identify or set us apart from societies that are actually moving swiftly in the direction of their ideals. we were talking about McCarthy of the House of Representatives in the United States.
The Speaker.
That was accused of actually reaching a consensus with the governing political party, the Democrats. And Mr. McCarthy has said he will not seek to reoccupy the space from which he was ejected. We're talking about a man who finally realizes that his party has veered off from the ideals that the founding fathers of the American state had at the forefront of their thinking. If in the present day, the people of the United States of America are still in the process of adapting what is good for them and leaving alone those things that take them far behind, I know that we are very much in need of such an approach. In other words, even if you're a Republican and you wake up one day and you realize that these Republican colleagues of mine no longer represent the interests of the American state, it is not satanic to let them alone and go the right way.
Now you have brought in a very important point. The interest of the American state.
Yes.
Do we have the interest of the African state? Do we have the interest of the Ugandan state, for example? Because to an extent that one can say, I'm not going to do this for the sake of Uganda, whether in the opposition, whether in the leadership in the government. Because most of the things we have seen happen in Uganda, for example, and I'm not talking only Uganda, but Africa generally, that you find people clubbed in this political class. And what is being looked at is the interest of that political class. And something is also, someone raising it up here, that you can fail to see the bigger picture of where the country is heading. And then you are saying, for us in this political party, this is what we believe. But what are the values of that political party vis-a-vis the values of the major, of the bigger state, of the bigger community, of the larger society that you represent? Because I think that also is the other driving factor, that one can say, I'm not going to do this for the sake of the national interest. I will not be able to get this money. I'm not going to be able to be bribed on this, because there is, we have seen people here getting bribes when people have no drugs in the hospitals. We have seen people buy substandard things when they know they are not going to work, but because they want to get money. So it is true that those who are giving us these things, some of those who are influencing us in this corruption, some people who are influencing us in these acts may not have our interest as Africans, as people of Africa. But can we resist this because we have values attached to our political inclinations?
I think something just came to mind, Dr. Mututa, Ndugu Mututa. The most important benefit of colonialism, and before that slavery, for the perpetrators of that vice, was a project that is still successful today, which involved convincing the African to hate himself.
Exactly. That is very important.
And then by extension, to sabotage everything that is good for him. The most important drawback for the African has not been the lives that have been lost to slavery. It is not the people who have been maimed by military conflict. It is not, however many, the babies that have died, condemned by all sorts of medical experiments. It is the loss of dignity as a people. It is the loss of self-belief in ourselves. It is the dedicated sabotaging of our own destiny in the pretended belief that we are going somewhere. Not with this software. That is the most important and most damaging legacy of slavery and colonialism. The day our leaders recognize that this system has to be redone, it cannot be co-opted, it cannot be enhanced, the software that is slavery and Western domination is only bettered by undoing it.
Exactly.
Overhauling is the word. Simply destroy the entire system and build,
it is unworkable.
And build yours that is aimed at improving your own people. Rebuilding the consciousness, the self-belief, the education that actually matters about your own issues, education that is designed to solve your problems as Africans, not education that is designed to solve their problems. Right now, the education system that is in Africa is designed entirely to solve their problems, not ours. The system, the political system, when you look at every 5 years going to elections, this is not to our advantage, this is to their advantage. Because even the ballot paper is designed from there. The ballot paper every 5 years. Right now, as we speak, 2026, there is a country now organizing to receive billions of money from Uganda for this. Right now, they're actually taking money for design. The candidates, and then the ballot paper. Right now, there is a plane booking to deliver these ballot papers to Uganda, and there must be a prepaid arrangement. So the system is there to help them. When they deliver these ballot papers, for you, after delivering this ballot paper that they have earned the money from, the rest of the 5 years you're going to be fighting over the results from this ballot paper. A ballot paper, you're fighting for 5 years, stupidly. But where it is manufactured, the Queen has been the president of that country for as long as she lived. When she died, her son took over. But for you here, every 5 years, you're going to that case. So until you really think for yourselves, design a system based on your preferences.
Yeah, now as we talk about that, we also realize that it now comes into play when you say maybe we need to go gradually to be able to eradicate.
No, the gradual process has been here for the last 61 years. Don't take us again to that. Now he's talking like the other leaders who refused Nkrumah's idea. Let us leave this conference with one country called Africa. They say, let us go. That's what you are saying. 61 years. You are moving like a tortoise, like a snail. How many years do you need now to do that? So that a politician can rule for the next 20 years. Let us go slow. Let us begin integration with the people moving and the services. So let us remove this border. Now you're creating one border, one custom border, isn't it? That one will take another 10 years. We are still studying. Another 20 years, systems. My friend. Let us begin by political integration. The rest will follow.
Yeah, a viewer who was following us today, I think there's been a lot of interesting things here. But like we said, we had expected earlier to be joined by the Minister for East African Affairs, who will have discussed and explained to the people of East Africa a lot of issues concerning this common market and also the union, the common border trade and all these issues that are affecting the Africans of the East African community today. But I think unfortunately we were not able to have her, but I'm sure in the next subsequent weeks we shall be able to have her to explain to us, because this issue of the East African community integration is at the heart of every East African member citizen. But she will be with us, I'm sure, anytime soon, and when that happens we'll let you know. For now we'll be stopping here and we will be wishing you the best of the weekend. into the independence celebrations, and let's have the best of the independence of 2023. And on behalf of my co-panelists here and the production crew that has been with us on this program, I thank you for being with us for the last 2 hours. And until Friday is when we shall be back again, and then we shall meet again. I wish you all the best and thank you for being with us.
Of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation